Hi, welcome to Psyched with Rena. This episode is part of a series on anxiety management, and today we're going to be talking about feeling triggered and what that does in our body and how to know that in our body. First, if you're new to this channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Rena Chin. I'm a psychotherapist in the Seattle area, and I primarily work with people of color, or as Resmaa Menakem calls them, bodies of culture. So people whose ancestors in the last few hundred years probably hailed from Africa or Asia. I have a client who, I'll call her Marissa, says, I'm not anxious at all. I'm just completely stressed and I have all these irrational thoughts that spin around my head. I would call that symptoms of anxiety. So we're going to look at what type of situations trigger our anxiety. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to identify for yourself when you're triggered, by what types of things, and what your natural bodily response is. To figure out more about anxiety management, please subscribe below and follow the series. But for now, I'll let you know that I'm not bringing up information that I've actually thought of myself. A lot of this is developed by doctors and research experts across the country. And when I can, I will put the links of references to articles and books below. What does it mean to be triggered? Here's one definition. Triggered, having an intense emotional or physical reaction, reminding us consciously or subconsciously of previous trauma. So in this video, we're going to be talking about noticing when we're triggered. Now, first, I think I need to detail what trauma means. There's the big T trauma. We're talking about catastrophic events like your parents dying, your house burning down, things like that, along the scale of large-scale abuse. However, many of us experience little T traumas. This is any time when we're growing up that our bodies feel unsafe, unsettled, feeling the need to protect itself. And these can be happening in small events or repeated events in our childhood. So, how do we get a handle on these triggers? What I'd like you to do in these coming weeks, or at least until the next video next week, is to notice when you are triggered. And how do we know we're triggered? I want you to listen to your body. I want you to notice when someone asks you a question, or when you're in a meeting or a difficult situation, how does your body respond? Do you have a tightening in your shoulders? Do you have a kind of feeling like sobbing in your chest? Do you have intestinal trouble, like you feel like you need to go to the bathroom? Do you have any sense of nausea? Or is there just sudden a burst of anger? It could be all sorts of different things. But it's alluding to what Marissa talked about as triggering off these irrational thoughts or responses. Some clients say, this person said this, and I have no idea why I did this or said that. It was just a gut reaction. So let me give you some common examples of being triggered that clients of mine have. I have one client, I'll call her Valerie. She is interrogated on every purchase she makes. So when her mother knows that she's bought a new bag, she will ask her, how much did it cost? Why did you get that? Isn't that one a little bit too heavy? And so there's a response she has whenever she shares about any kind of purchase she's made that she holds back. She's afraid to share things she's done for fear of being scrutinized. A lot of these are childhood patterns that we carry into adulthood. So I also work with a married couple, and the husband, Vic, he is very sensitive, and he noticed that when his wife came home at the end of the day and she asked him, what'd you do today? He would feel an instinct like, okay, here's my list. I did this and this and this and this and this. And actually, his partner was just hoping for a part of connecting for the evening, just wanting to know how he was doing and what he was up to. But because of his history of being asked by his parents whether he was being productive and efficient, whether he was wasting his time or just goofing off, he had a defense mechanism built in. So when he heard his wife ask, what did you do today? He felt like he had to come up with a huge list of things. These are examples of just simple conversation, how we can be triggered by casual questions. Your first action item is to note when you're triggered. How does it feel in your body? And what are the circumstances? Are you at work? Are you with an authority figure? Are you at home? Jot down these and keep a record so we can catch yourself in the act of when you're getting triggered. A lot of our being triggered comes from a subconscious response to past patterns or events with our family of origin. I'm going to do a little bit of neurobiology with you that is developed by Dan Siegel. I'll give a link to his book, Mind Sight, below. But he explains the 3 different main categories of our brain. So here is a model of our brain. This is from his book. I didn't invent this. But think of your spinal cord like your autonomic nervous system. It is the nervous system that helps your heart beat, helps your stomach digest, helps our lungs breathe. It keeps all the stuff going that needs to be going without our conscious behavior. Another part of our brain is this more primitive limbic system. This is developed by the time we're born, and this is pretty much what operates a lot of the time in like infants. It is the part of our brain that gets triggered and tries to protect us. And the way it might try to protect us, the limbic system, is given a threat, like feeling triggered, we might go into one of 4 behaviors. We might go into fight or flight, or freezing, or friending. Friending might be submitting to an authority. It might also be just turning on our social engagement system. So we have that primitive reaction system. And then as we grow older, our prefrontal cortex develops. This is our adult upstairs brain, and it helps us in long-term decision making. It helps us think through consequences of things, and it takes longer to get online. The limbic system is what keeps us alive, our primitive selves, like if we were in the wild somewhere and need to be protected from animals. It is fast to react with fight, flight, freeze, or friend. Whereas our upstairs brain, the rational thinking brain, might be slower to come online. So that's a tiny neurobiology lesson. Let's say you got a journal and you've been tracking all these times you're triggered. When you can put categories around what triggers you, I also want you to think about what is your intuitive response to that trigger. For example, is it fight? Once you feel someone has asked you, what did you do today? Do you feel like you come back in fight mode? I did this, this, and this, and you're going to show somebody something, or you come back on the offense. Is that your gut response? Is that your usual first response? Another response might be flight. Like, I want to run away from here. I have many clients who are developers, and when they're in group meetings or even in stand-up, they have this intuitive reaction like, oh my gosh, I just want to get out of here. I want to run away. And just to know in your body where you feel that, and notice that maybe your reflex reaction is flight. Another common reaction would be freeze. This would be like an animal in the wild, like a deer playing dead. So just let me bury my head and not think about this and not be noticed. It might look like denial. Many people in the season of COVID are facing unemployment. And a common reaction after you've kind of looked at the situation and sized up your possibilities might be for some clients to go into freeze. All they want to do is to sleep all day and to watch videos and to numb out on Netflix. If this is your go-to response, that's good to know about yourself so we can know how to move on from there. The 4th positive response is friending. Now, friending can actually be a good thing, to make friends with the threat. It could be used by humor to diffuse things. Sometimes a common Asian American response for friending would be to apologize. I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry about that. I confess that I did something wrong here. I admit my fault doing here. So kind of preemptively trying to diffuse hostility. This isn't a bad technique for friending, but perhaps it might be overused if you find yourself pre-apologizing or chronically apologizing. then maybe the friend mode is not being used in quite the right way. Your second to-do is to notice your gut response to triggers. Do you tend to go towards fight, flight, freeze, or friend? You might be able to tell by the energy in your body that fight and flight are often very active using the sympathetic nervous system, while freeze and friend tend to be more low-key, less energized, maybe towards the withdrawal side. I have a client, I'll call him Leo. He works as a manager in a tech company, and at work, if he feels threatened, he is in fight mode. It's like a battle to the death of kind of intellectually battling on who has the right answer for something. Whereas at home, if he's triggered, his response might be kind of to numb out, like, okay, this is all too much. I don't want to think about this family conflict or these problems at home with my wife. So there's room for us to have different reactions based on interactions in different circumstances and with different people. So that's what I've got for you this week. Your exercises are to notice when you're triggered and how you're triggered, and to think about what your gut level response is to that. Once we're aware of what our response is, then we have the opportunity to pause and change that response. In the next video, if you subscribe here, we're going to be talking about emotional regulation and what it means to kind of have emotional and physical grounding, so we could think through and calm our body down long enough that our upstairs brain can come online. So I will see you next time. Stay tuned.